Hello, my posse. Good to see you again. I'm back in my kitchen, and we're trying it a little higher this time. See if you can see a little bit more of what I'm doing over here. So excited to have you here again. Wanted to quickly tell you a little bit about what this is about, and go from there. First of all, I am wearing my brand new Farm Party 2018 t-shirt in order to tell you please come. It's a week from today, Thursday, August 16th. We'd love to see you. Maybe I could actually meet you face to face. That would be amazing. So what are we doing today? Today we are doing another exit strategies. Those things you do at the end of the week when you're like, crap, I've got so many veggies left over and I don't want them to go bad, so let's use them up fast. The two that we're going to cover today is one, pesto. Uses a lot of some kind of green, and you can actually use more than just basil in pesto, although Farmer Greg would say it's not pesto if you don't use basil oil, Parmesan, and garlic, but we're going to call it pesto anyway. And experiment around. It's going to be a nice green sauce that you can use on chicken dishes, that you can use, under the skin of a chicken. You can put it in sandwiches as a dressing. It's a highly nutritious, concentrated, yummy thing that you can add to so many different dishes. You can put it in eggs. I love to put everything in eggs. So you can add it to quiches, all sorts of things. So that's exit strategy number one, pesto. Exit strategy number two, sheet pan meals, where you put 2 to 3 different things on a sheet pan, stick it in the oven, and you've got a meal, and it's easy cleanup. So those are the 2 things I'm going to cover. I'm mainly covering pesto. I'll quickly cover sheet pan meals just because they're fabulous. And then later on this weekend or Monday, you will get a blog about sheet pan meals that I'll go a little more in depth about those. So first of all, for pesto, one of the tools that you will need, number one, you need a food processor, preferably a 14-cup food processor. It gives you a lot more room. I've got mine right here. If you don't have that, you can use a blender in a pinch. I have my Vitamix here. It chops pretty fine and small, but getting stuff out of those blades is kind of a pain. I prefer the food processor. Gives you a little bit more room to move around and stuff. Food processor, the rest of it's pretty simple. Knife, you might want a lemon squeezer of some kind or juicer. And then your cutting board, everybody needs a cutting board and knife. So the ratio that I use, and this is just like a basic ratio that you can use to make pesto, is if you're going to make it without cheese, which I'm allergic to dairy, so can't use the cheese. You need 1 part oil, 1 part nuts, and 4 parts greens. And some people say you can pack as much as 8 parts greens, but that seems like a lot to me. And in these parts, I was sort of using half cup. So half cup oil, half cup nuts, 2 cups greens. And again, the traditional is basil, some pine nut, which are so expensive that I never use them. I almost always use walnuts, but you can use lots of different nuts, and olive oil. Hold on for a sec. Okay. If you're going to use cheese, you would use 2 parts olive oil, 1 part nuts, 4 to 8 parts of the greens, and then 2 parts cheese. So with that said, let's make a little pesto. I'm going to use, you also want to add in there some garlic. Right now I'm going to use about 3 garlic cloves. Doesn't fit into the parts quite so well, but you want to add to taste garlic, salt and pepper, and lemon if you choose. That's an option. I'm going to do it tonight. So first I like to drop in the garlic. I pre-peeled it. I'm going to stick these peelings in my freezer bag full of veggie scraps that I then use to make delicious broth when I feel like it, when I need it. So I stick in the garlic, gonna throw it in there, and then just pulse it a little bit. It's gonna be a little loud. Get them nice and chopped up. Then I'm gonna add my greens. So tonight I've actually only made pesto traditionally, pretty much so far. A lot of people like to use up carrot tops, I'm learning, in their pesto. That's a great idea. Tonight we have so much at River Road right now. We have so much parsley that's so beautiful. And it's a strong flavor, so it's hard to use up. So I'm just throwing in a whole bunch of it with the stems. Michelle and I talked about this, and we're like, just twist it off. It's quick, easy. Throw that in the compost again. So you're not taking just this piece, but you want to take a lot of it. Don't waste it. Use it. So I did a bunch of that. And I'm going to throw that in. I also have a little bit of purpley curly kale. Lovely. In there. I'm going to take the whole lid off actually because, there's a lot of greens. So we have about 4 to 8, somewhere in there. In my experimental bowl. And usually the recipes say packed, so you really you can pack it in there. This always confuses me. Okay. Awesome. Now we're gonna pulse it again. Really get those greens pulsed down before you add anything else. Looking good. Then we're going to add, now, here's some other greens you can use. I have kale and parsley in there, carrot tops, cilantro, arugula. I haven't tried all of these, but you can try them. You can try all of those. Any of those. I bet arugula would be really good, actually. Okay, so I've got those in there. Now we want to add our olive oil, which I have in a wine bottle, but this is olive oil. I'm going to do... So I'm doing the dairy-free recipe, so I'm going to put 1 part olive oil. And this is a flexible formula, so if you find that you want more or less in here, just add it. If you want it to be a little more runny, add some olive oil. If you don't, subtract some olive oil. There it goes. Some people drizzle it in. It's not my style. Some other oils you could use: avocado oil, walnut oil. You want a mild oil, something something like coconut oil would be a little bit too much, unless you're really doing a flavor profile that complements that. Okay, so we got that. Now I'm going to use cashews tonight. Cashews are super creamy, and so that's going to add some of that creaminess that maybe you don't have with when you take out the cheese, I hope. We're experimenting here, so I'm not sure. So if we're using 1/2 cup as the parts, we do 1 part nuts. And again, if it's not enough, we're just going to add some more. So there go the nuts. And some other, the traditionalist pine nuts, of course. You can use walnut, pecan, or almond. There's some other ones that I've seen. Really no idea. So after running that a little bit, I'm going to take a spatula and kind of push it down a little bit. Get all that green goodness back down there. like right now. And then you want to, with your food processor, you just want to make sure those lines line up with the bumps below so you don't get the gunk underneath your blade. Run it a little bit more. And before you run it too much, let's add that salt and pepper. My daughter is going to be eating this, so I'm not going to put a ton of pepper in, which is what I'm putting in right now. And then where'd my salt go? Let me check over here. Hold on 1 second, guys. Okay, I just grabbed some salt from over here. I'm going to put a nice large pinch or two in there. It's probably a half a teaspoon, I would guess. And then, so pepper, salt, and I've got my lemon that I've squeezed in here. And this is not a great looking lemon. I'm using it up. Love it. Using up all the stuff in the fridge. I'm going to pulse it again. We're making the pesto. I think we're almost done. How long has it been? I wish I had timed myself. All right. This looks really good to me. It's a pretty thick pesto. You can see. I might add a little olive oil, but it's good. It definitely tastes like parsley. It's got good garlic flavor. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. I might add a little bit more nuts. It's very salty. But again, this is something that you're going to add to things, so you want it to be pretty strong when you taste it. But yeah, wow. Good. Okay. So, that done. Let's talk about sheet pan meals. The basic concept, and if you should Google sheet pan meals. They're quick, easy, and they're like, there's a whole trend on social media, or not social media. There's a whole trend on the internet about sheet pan meals. You Google it and you'll get 5 million ideas. The Kitchen, spelled without the E, has a lot of great ideas. The other night I tried it. I used some uncooked sausage. This is actually cooked, but I'm just using it as an example. Cut up some cauliflower. What else did I put on there? Beets sliced thinly. There's been a lot of talk about beets on the Posse group, and beets in the oven are sweet and delicious. Kids love them, and they're great as chips the next day. You can just heat them up. You can put all sorts of flavor profiles on there. A little salt and pepper is great, and olive oil. If you wanted to spice it up a little, just put a lot of different kind of herbs. I put the other night I wrapped my sausages in some chard, and the chard just soaked in that meat flavor, and it was delicious. I put some snap peas on there, and then the beets, and it all just cooked in together. And that was the olive oil that I used, salt and pepper, and the flavors of the sausage, which had its own. I used the Good Food Store, one of their sausages. I had some brats and the other kielbasa flavors, and the kielbasa was particularly good. So yeah, I mean, it's all sorts of amazing things that you can stick in there, and I'll cook in one. And often I will cook it on 2 sheets because I want to make a lot, so I have leftovers. With that said, a few. Let's see. Let me switch over. Low maintenance, easy to clean up. Then you can even some people put tinfoil down here, although I wouldn't, just because it's so easy to clean anyway, especially if it's greasy. Again, I'll mention farm parties next week, a week from today, so please join us. I'll also mention on the Facebook page there's been some talk about pickling, quick pickling. My daughter actually did this at farm camp this week. She was up with Jason and the farm to schoolers doing little peas at the peas farm. And she made a quick pickle of green beans because they have a huge amount of green beans up there right now. And she put some garlic in the bottom. It probably needs a little bit more garlic. A little bit more like dill or something would be great with this. Some kind of spice in there. Emily Morelli had a lot of different. She did some cabbage and some other things. Great idea. So think about quick pickling. We might do a video with Greg on quick pickling soon. Next week there will not be a video because it's farm party and it'll be crazy. But maybe we'll join you again the week after. We might do a live video from the party because that would be fun. And otherwise, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being a part of our CSA. We couldn't do this without you. Let me know your questions and have a great week.